and welcome back to another episode of the Four Elements United. Today, I think that I'm the host, but we're gonna get to that in a second. I'm Water.
I'm
Earth.
Willie.
See there? Look at there. Already.
Dang,
I'm
my
fine.
bad. That's on
I'm
me. That's
fine.
on me. That's on me. Earth.
All right. So, guys, who's the host? Just so we can make sure we got this together
I'm
today.
the host. I
Oh,
think
there we
fire.
go. There we go. There we go.
I think it's win.
So anybody who missed it last week, we had a little snafu where I basically thought I was hosting and Earth was actually the true host. So I kind of botched his little smooth transition to be hosting or whatever. But today we have a really good show for you today. We are talking about the power of making a decision. Okay. So last week I was prepared with my notes. Today I don't have my notes up. So while I get my notes up, elements, when you hear the word decision, what comes to mind for you?
Wow. So like when I hear decision, I hear not choice. That's what I hear. Immediately. I hear not making a choice, making a decision. Making a decision to me is choosing something based upon the factual information that you have in front of you. That's for me, that's a decision. What y'all got?
I would add, yeah, I would add to that slightly and say that when I hear decision or decide, I also hear like the killing off of other plausible alternatives. Distinct from choice and choosing. And I think I don't want to get into Waters' notes. Hopefully he's got that in his script. So we'll get into that. So I will just say I also hear the killing off of everything else. It doesn't necessarily mean you're choosing something from nothing or from love or from what you truly desire. It's just kind of like I hear like a process of elimination kind of a deal. Best available versus what I truly want. So when
Um, when I hear the word decision, I think about looking at various alternatives and choosing the very best given your knowledge, your wisdom, your understanding, um, what's readily available, and just going with that.
I like
Go
it.
ahead.
I like it. Yeah. Those are good. Those are good. And we have a lot of conversations where we talk about decision. You guys have heard me talk about this some quite a few times. I like to talk about this because what I actually pulled is I pulled the book definition of decision. And decision is actually a stem from the Latin root caedere, which means to cut, and de, which means of, off, or of. I mean, for all of our Latin friends out there, de in Spanish is of, but de in this context is off. So decision is to cut off, the same way that an incision is to cut into. A decision is to cut off, and that really is the basis of why I want to have this show, because I think so many times people talk about how they've made a decision or they're deciding on something or they have decided, when in my book they really did not make a decision. And a few weeks ago I did a show. Last year I hosted was are you living a life that's aligned with your dreams? And I think that possibly is one of the things that really stops us from living the life of our dreams, is because we really haven't cut off, as Fire was alluding to, we haven't really cut off everything else and decide one way is the path for me. So I want to stop right there. And with that in the context, right? That context right there. I want to go around the horn again with the elements. What's a decision that you have made in your life? What's a decision that you've made in your life?
I will start with just some of the most basic things that get the conversation going, right? You know, one of the decisions that I think I would categorize as a decision that I held as a choice back then was my major that I chose. Um, you know, I definitely chose a major based on in college. I chose a major based on factors that I thought would lead to more money and more income. Or I had inclinations for math and I loved business. So, there was reasons. Um, and I guess I did kind of kill off all the possibilities about doing something else in that time, in that space, in that moment. Um, but I wasn't choosing from an existential place. That's just something that I'm looking at and acknowledging right now. So I'll start with that. The major that I chose for college. What you guys got?
Nice, nice.
Oh, that I decided the major I decided to study.
Ah, for me, it was when I let me see, I can remember a lot of them, but the one that was really major for me was when I decided, it's clear about that, to not continue to work as a corporate employee and start doing straight contract work. I cut off literally every possible option there was. Even though in the process I questioned myself, especially my last day at work, and even as I drove away, I was questioning, "Wow, what am I doing?" However, I just kept going because for me there was no other alternative. I didn't give myself an alternative. I could have turned around and gone back because I was asked, I was given the opportunity to have like a major increase in salary. I was given some other perks, and I literally turned all of it down and said, nope, 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 nope. And so I would have to say for me, it was actually going into the world of doing consulting or contract work. For me, it was sink or swim. Well, really, it was swim or swim because I didn't even think I was going to sink, but it was just swim, start stroking. So yeah, because I had nothing else. I didn't give myself anything else to look at. Couldn't look to the right, couldn't look to the left, couldn't look behind me. I could only look in front of me, and that was it. So yeah, that's mine.
I like it. When
And for me, I'm
decisions.
I'm always continuously deciding, which people ought to be around me or not. You know, I'm always making certain that the people that are around me, are edifying, that are supportive, and that have my best interest, in mind. And likewise, I have their best interest in mind, and we can elevate and do something of substance together. So I'm always making those decisions.
Mm.
Mm. And yeah, I'm sitting here thinking about like my life. I've always been kind of not kind of just extreme. I don't give
Mm.
myself a lot of options. Once I say I'm going to do X, I remember the first time I snowboarded from like over 11,000 feet. I had never done it. I said, well, this is what I'm gonna do. I got on a chairlift, went up, and there's literally no other way down. I didn't give myself any options at all, and I just took off. That was it. And so it's like once I say I'm gonna do X, there's no Y, there's no, I'm malleable in the situation. So I'm not like tunnel vision because I know like what I think is the best, like think is the plan may not be the best laid plan, or whatever. So as long as I get my result, but the result that I desire is just going to be the result I desire. I don't give myself an opportunity to get a different result at all. Yeah.
One of my
I like
favorite
that.
movies is
I like it too.
there's a beautiful movie that it's an Asian movie. You might be able to find it on YouTube, but it's called The Admiral, and it talks about the burning of the ships. You know, they were outmanned and outgunned by a big army, and many of them, um, wanted to concede, right? But the admiral, decided to burn all alternatives and go forward. It was either life or death. And it's a really beautiful movie. I recommend that everybody see that movie.
Yeah, that's a great story. I think they tell that in Think or Go Rich. That's one of his stories that he tells about that whole thing. I think it happened in the 1500s or something like that. And look, elementals, everybody in the chat, now that you've heard the elements kind of go around the horn, I'm about to share mine. Put in the comments, what is a decision that you have made? What's a decision that you made? Even if you're watching this, like after it's live or whatever, you're watching it on YouTube or Facebook, somewhere like that, pop over a comment and just say, hey, there's a decision that I made. Because I think that's really important for you just to actually verbalize it. Because so many times we don't realize that there's other things that we haven't made decisions on, but there are some decisions that we've made where there was nothing else. It was like, to me, that is the prototype for a decision. And when you can think of it, that's your prototype where you say, hey, in the future, if I'm going to make a decision, it's going to look like this. And so for me, two decisions come to mind for me that I made. Number one was getting out of my hometown. Okay. Like, I always knew that I never fit in there. I was always just having conversations with people. I run into them and, the different kinds of conversations that we would have. It's like, man, this is not me. I went to college in the same state, went back to my hometown after college. And I remember very distinctly, it always had been on my mind. I always knew that I wanted to move to a city, like a big city, but it always had been on my mind. And then one day I was at work and the manager was just talking slam trash to me. I mean, just as if I was like nobody. and I just decided right then and there, I was like, you know what, dude, this is it. I'm getting out of this place. I'm hardly making any money, and they're talking to me like that. I'm out of here. So literally, I cut off every possibility that there was, set up some interviews. Or as a matter of fact, I went home. I actually pulled up a map of the US and I was like, man, where am I going to move to? And just Atlanta popped out like instantly. And I was like, man, there it is. That's where I'm going. So, got interviews lined up and all that stuff. And then literally got a job offer, quit my job, and then loaded up a truck. Me and my dad loaded up the truck together. I drove down by myself and unloaded the truck by myself. That's how committed I was. I knew nobody down here, and I was just, it was a done deal. I was like, man, this is it. I am out of this place. That is the last time ever. And similarly, it's funny. This is probably one of the themes of my life. I was at my last job that I ever worked over a decade ago. And again, I was in sales, and they decided that a good way to motivate us was to cut our commissions or whatever. And Fire, this from being a sales manager. You never do that to your salespeople. And anyway, I just decided right then and there, like, I've always been talking about starting a business. That's been on my mind. That's been in my space. Like, why not now? As a matter of fact, there is no other time besides now. Quit without any clients lined up. I didn't even know what business I was going into. I just quit. I just thought, like, it was literally 2 months after we met in our seminar. And I just decided that, it's time for me to stop actually being in the passenger seat of life and be in the driver's seat of life when it comes to my livelihood, my income. And I just don't want to talk to I don't want to have to answer to anyone. I think that's probably what was my stuff and my baggage that was going on. But anyway, that's what motivated me to get out of there and get out of Dodge or whatnot. Those are two decisions that come to mind for me that are just really, really clear cut. Do you guys see the decisions that you made as like prototypes where you're like, you know what, that's definitively, that is it?
Yeah. The one that I didn't share.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Eric. The one that I didn't share that was probably the most, I would say, had the highest probable chance of not happening based on statistics was the decision to make it or to play in the NFL. What I'm present to right now, I want to share this before I lose it, is how much I judged. I had a distinction of choice. I had a distinction of deciding. And I always regarded choosing from nothing or from love, from power, as something that was better than deciding. And I promise you not, is this conversation right now that water is generating that has me present to just how powerful deciding is. In fact, when I chose to pursue, when I chose to be a professional athlete, that showed up at 23, but that choice was made at 7, right? So I chose it as a career path, and I decided that it was going to happen. Like, it didn't matter if I was at Alabama, Pitt, Robert Morris for Penn State, or some NAIA school didn't have a football scholarship program. Like, it didn't matter. I was going to make it. And to Earth's point earlier, it's crazy because there's a 0.0057% chance that, you know, an athlete can make it to the pros. But in my mind, that statistic, that factoid had no bearing whatsoever as to whether or not I thought it was going to happen for me. So to your point, Water, I think once in your mind, in your spirit, in your belly, in your soul, you've decided that this thing has to happen. Like I decided to be a custodial father. I decided to be married and not be, you know, not experience divorce. Like this just is not going to happen. It is a very powerful thing, and so for me, choice deals with the menu of options. Now, choice is about a menu of options, and deciding, making a decision is killing off all other possibilities and getting an action around that thing that you said you wanted to manifest. I see them both happening hand in hand or in conjunction versus being at odds with one another. One being from an in order to place, like I'm deciding in order to not be broke, or I'm deciding something in order to not be single. And then choosing is something that was ethereal or spiritual or existential, when nobody cares. Like nobody cares about the why. Choosing is a phenomenon that we experience as human beings, and so is deciding. You have a menu of options for which you make a choice. Once you make a choice, you decide that is the way or the path, and everything else is gone, is dead. It doesn't exist in your realm of possibility. So, man, it's good. I'm sorry, Eric.
No, I mean, this is perfect. You know, because I'm sitting here thinking about. I was also thinking about choosing and deciding, and you said it perfectly. First, for me, it's a choice, only because I say this is just what I'm gonna do. And once that happens, everything else is cut off. So there's nothing else that I'm gonna do in whatever arena I'm pursuing outside of that. You know, even if it comes down to, you know, taking an L, because when we decide something, it doesn't mean that it's gonna be smooth. It doesn't even mean it's gonna work out at all. None of that. It doesn't mean any of those things at all. Period. It just doesn't. It just means that, okay, once you say that you're gonna do X, your life, the world around you literally configures itself in order for you to fulfill upon whatever that X is. It literally happens that way. And along the way, there are times when, you know, I can say for me personally, there are times when, you know, I've crashed and burned, and I didn't burn up completely, but there was times I crashed and burned. I got right back up and kept going. It's like, you know, I like to use, like, snowboarding is one of my favorite activities, but I like to use snowboarding as an example. I remember the first time I decided to do like backcountry snowboarding. Those of you who snowboard, you know what I'm talking about. And that's where it's ungroomed trails, not even a trail. It's just ungroomed part of the mountain, right? And so I'm snowboarding and I'm just flying and zigzagging in and out of these trees. And all of a sudden, I hit a tree. And I promise you, anytime someone says they hit a tree, it is 1,000% their fault. I took full responsibility for that. Tore my MCL. I was able to snowboard to the base of the mountain. Got some, unfavorable results from the doctor, but it didn't stop me. As soon as I was able to put adequate weight on my knee, I bought a plane ticket, went right back to the same place, and I snowboarded the same course again until I got it right. Knowing that, hey, you know what? I could hit another tree. But along the way, I didn't hold back. I wasn't apprehensive. I wasn't skittish. I just went and said, well, whatever happens, happens. And so when you pursue, I say for me, when I pursue anything that I decide to do, I'm like on 1,000 the entire way, period, whether I crash and burn or not. And so my question to the elements is like, what do you do when you decide to do something, you're pursuing something, and you crash and burn along the way? For me, it's just a part of the journey. And so when I hit that tree and the tree didn't move, I promise you it didn't. I just looked at that as just being a part of the journey and fulfilling upon, that dream of mine to do backcountry snowboarding. So what do you all do when you crash and burn along the way? How do you deal with that?
Well, let me say before I answer that, I'm trying to get the elements to take a snowboarding trip because Earth already knows how addicted I am to snowboard. I ski and board, so I'm trying to get the elements out there. So we're gonna have a vlog. We're gonna make a vlog where we're all out in the snow because I'll be out in my element. I'll be out in frozen water, so I'll be out in my element or whatnot. But yeah, to answer your question, man. Like, how do I handle it when I crash and burn? It really depends. For me, I can't sit here and say that I just plow through. If I make a decision, and bro, if I tear my knee, I literally may say, you know what, done. That's it. It just depends on what my purpose was. Really going back to the why. Why did I make that decision in the first place? Right. Why did you decide to become a father or become a husband is completely different than why did you decide to, move to a place. I might move and like become homeless and be like, I gotta go home. So you have to, to me, like I basically reassess, and it's okay if I was wrong. However, I actually made a decision, stuck to it, and then I actually hit an obstacle that I felt was insurmountable enough for me to say, that's enough. Now, I will say that with the two decisions, and this is probably contradictory to what I just said, but the two decisions that I did make, which are moving out of my hometown and basically quitting my job to start a business, both of those were struggles for me, and I just plowed through it. In my mind, there was no, this is going to be too hard. It was just, hey, listen, the only way you fail is if you give up. And that was my thought process behind it. Fire, Win, what do you guys think?
Where did we get the notion that life should be smooth sailing? Any endeavor that we pursue, you got to expect some lumps and some bumps, and you just simply have to endure it, and develop thick skin and, maneuver your way through the process. It's ridiculous not to think that life is linear and that everything that you pursue is going to go so smooth that it's dreamlike. That's a ridiculous notion. Life doesn't work like that. The way we grow and develop is through resistance.
No doubt. Have you guys seen the movie Moana? Probably not. With your
Never heard of
nieces, nephews, maybe never heard of it. Oh wow,
Oh,
On
is it
it's
Disney.
a cartoon?
yeah, it's
Yeah.
Okay. I think I heard of that on Disney, right?
Disney joint. The Rock is the god Maui,
Yep.
and there's this Moana's the main character. She's got this little pet called Hey Hey, named Hey Hey, and Hey Hey's like a little bird, and Hey Hey like bumps his nose, his beak on like everything in perpetuity. The whole movie, he just kind of like he locks in on something. He just bumps his head on it over and over and over and over again. So to answer Walter's question, I'm like Hey Hey when I make a decision. I'm like it has to happen. Like they look, bro, you need to hang them up. Like you got a degenerative. You have osteo. you have bone issues. Your pelvis is moving. It's gonna get worse over time. It's already arthritic. Hang them up. I'm like, okay, so what can I get? When can I get back out there? Like, what is there a pill? Is there a shot? Is there some rehab? I'm like that. And to your question is like until I've exhausted all other means of getting what I want, having my decision become my reality or manifest my dream, and or the passion in my heart, the fire in my belly for that particular thing or outcome or expression has dissipated. Like it's in my mind, it's over, or it's time to move on. It's like a feeling or an unction. Until I get that, I can't stop. Like I can't quit. I just got to keep going, even when it makes no sense to anybody around me. I don't care. So until the voice within me, when all is well with my soul, there's peace, and I've given my best and I've tried everything, will I then concede to Wynn's point? It's like I used to think everything should be smooth sailing, and I realize that it's not. But you got to know when to hold and when to fold them when it comes to manifesting your dreams. And for me, if there's still fire left in my belly, I'm like, hey, I'm just gonna keep. It has to happen. It has to happen. So
I like
that's
that.
how I do it. Can't stop, won't stop.
I like
That's
that.
right.
And
That's
there's
right.
a drawing. Let me see if I can actually pull this up. Let me see if this works. This might not work. Hold on one second. Give me a second.
Oh, we are going into uncharted territory. Share screen.
I know we are. We are.
We screen sharing.
I don't know if this is gonna. Oh, I blocked it. Hold on. Let me try to unblock it now. What I want to do is there's a drawing that I really really enjoy. Let me just do this. It's gonna show all of this right quick. This drawing right here. This is exactly. Can you guys see the drawing?
Yeah.
Yep.
So this is exactly what Wynn and Fire was just talking about. I love this. I've seen this so many times over the years. First time I saw it was about 10 years ago, and this is exactly what Wynn was alluding to. Is when did we think that success looks like it does on the left here? And for anyone who's not who's listening to this on the audio only version, there on the left side there's a straight line showing success going from kind of like the standard stock graph of just going straight up into the air, and then there on the right it shows a bunch of squiggles until it starts that way, but then it squiggles all around, and then it ends up going up to the top after it squiggles a lot. So I just think that is a huge that's a huge point. That boom, did it turn it off?
Yeah.
Okay, it worked. Yeah. So that's a huge point that I think that the elements have really come to, is just that, look, it's making a decision is not about doing the easy thing. Making a decision is about cutting off all of the possibilities, which leads me to a question from Moya. Fire, you love reading these off.
So, are you saying that if I keep other options open, I have not made a decision? It's coming from Moya Martin on YouTube platform.
Elements.
Thank you for the question, Moya.
Elements, what say ye?
By definition, no, you have not made a decision.
Earth?
Correct.
Okay.
So
Earth says correct.
Yeah, that's my view. But you can make multiple decisions based upon your attempt to pursue multiple things. So you can do multiple things. I mean, we all can, but you're still in the world of sort of choosing. If you haven't like really narrowed everything in and just gotten that tunnel vision in pursuing whatever that is for you. So yeah.
Yeah, I would echo that and say that no, you have not made a decision. I think that by having a plan B, that to me says that you've not made a decision.
Yeah, for me, it's like the eggs in the basket scenario. I always put all my eggs in one basket. I just do. And if it doesn't work, I just take them out of that basket, put them in another basket. To me, it's life is just really that easy for me. I don't put one egg over here. Well, let me kind of see how this is gonna go. Will it work? Will it not work? I have this safety net over here, but my other 11 eggs, I'm just gonna put one over here and just to see how it goes. I take all 12, dump them in the basket, and just go and see what happens. And if it's not happening, I can always take them out and put them in another basket. It's that easy. It is that simple.
Wind, what do you think?
If you've made a decision to date 4 people, you've made a decision to date. You haven't made a decision to be with one person.
Boom. So not even
Okay.
so not even
This guy.
so even in the context of poly, because our Kathy made a comment from Facebook saying that she said unless we're talking about poly relationships, choosing one isn't possible. Well, the decision to be poly could be a decision because you're killing off monogamy as an alternative, which is fine in that case. So even in that context, to Wynn's point, you can still be making decisions even if there's multiple parties involved in the situation or circumstance. I will say this though, in my observation of myself, and this is a share, when I'm laser focused on something, when I've actually made a decision, is the only time that I can genuinely say that a thing has expanded in my life. Meaning, when I wasn't double-minded and I was all in, I was locked in to a thing. It could be a job, it could be my relationship, my marriage, my standard of care as a father. It wasn't until I killed off everything else to that thing expanded, and then from that expansion, from that abundance, from that additional capacity that I developed over time, I now begin to think to myself, what else can I do? Because this thing that I decided to do is now easy, or it doesn't fulfill me like it did at one point in time. So now I have more capacity to add something else to my plate. I can decide to do something else that is a part or a function of my full self-expression while expressing myself in this way 9 to 5, if you will. I'll use my job as an example. This podcast is an example of something that we decided to do, and I'm doing it in conjunction with everything else I got going on. And these guys are all entrepreneurs. They hella busy, right? But every week we do this. Water's traveling. I start a new career, new job next week. We're gonna do it on Sundays. We decided to do it in addition to something else that was sort of our core expression. I think that's a good point to make for the elementals. We're not saying that you have to be a robot and you have to compartmentalize your life in such a way that you can't do multiple things, right? But what I will say is that laser-like focus on the main thing has got to you got to give it that in order for it to expand, in order for you to have the capacity, the passion, the space to take on other things. So that's something that I recognize. And when I do too much, when I'm deciding to do too many things at once or choosing to do multiple things at once and I'm not good at anything, that's when it all falls down every single time.
Yeah, good point. That's excellent point. I look at deciding as a journey of mastery.
Mm.
That's all it is for me. Because when I decide to do something, I may not know how to do it, but everything that happens in between is my journey to mastery. So when I fulfill upon whatever that is, I have conversational domain over that thing, whatever it is. I have mastery that exists. So for me, it's a journey to mastery. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, I
That's
like
it.
that.
I think one of the things that's what's critical that a lot of people miss is they have to continuously ask themselves, inquire about, what is the ultimate outcome that I want, and is what I'm doing, are my actions and behaviors, is my thinking in alignment, consistent with that.
I
Mm.
like that. I like that. So then let me ask you this. That was some good feedback by all the elements, and this is a great conversation. So then why do you think so many people don't make decisions in their life?
Oh, that's easy.
Good.
Because to decide to do something, you have to put your butt on the line. You have to be responsible. It's like throwing your hat over the fence. There's no gate there. There's no way to get through outside of climbing the fence and getting to the other side. And it's just, you have to be 100% responsible. And to me, it's like multiple reasons. It's like you don't want to put your butt on the line. It causes you to be 100% responsible for the outcome.
Mm.
But when you're choosing and you have all these other things, these other options, you don't have to be 100% responsible because you can quit at any moment and say, let me go over here, because what you'll do, some people, they will attempt to look at what's easier. Where is it that I don't have to be as responsible? I don't have to put my butt on the line, and they'll look at something else and go in that direction. So for me, it's responsibility and having your butt on the line. Period. Because when you cut off options, it's on you. It is
Yeah.
100% on you. So yeah.
I would
Fire.
categorize that as fear. Just to add to what Earth is already said, I think that those dynamics go into the fear bucket. Um, Hell, I think it's all. I think there's only one bucket for why people don't decide. It's all fear. I mean, think about what came to my mind when you asked the question. Water was FOMO, and the F in FOMO is fear. It's fear of missing out. So whether it's fear of failure, whether it's fear of commitment, whether it's fear of missing out, fear of putting your whole tail on the line and being 100% responsible, it's all rooted in fear. To answer your question, and any expression of it is going to be fear based in my assessment.
Yeah, but the
So
critical part is what fear of what though, and
right.
in my contention that it would be most people fear what it says about them. See, if you can blame somebody, if you can shame somebody, if you can guilt somebody else, then that shifts the responsibility onto something else or someone else, as opposed to accepting that responsibility and accountability for yourself. At the end of the day, we're responsible for our own lives, 100%. We're responsible for everything. Regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the conditions of the field, we got a responsibility to get the things that we want and to get to where we want to go. So it doesn't matter if I live in the projects. It doesn't matter, if certain things happen to me throughout my life. At the end of the day, I'm responsible for living the life that I want to live.
I'm sitting here thinking about fear, right? So I look at myself And fear exists. It does. When I'm sitting there thinking about what has me to keep going, because I want to get deeper than just fear. Fear to me is just surface. That's just something that gets kind of throw out fear. And Wynn said it perfectly. Fear of what? But then even when you go deeper than that, what is it really? What's underneath all of that? And I think about like what keeps me going. And the thing that keeps me going is that I have something at stake. To me, I have like everything I do. The thing that keeps me going is that my view of it is that my life is at stake. Like literally, my life is at stake.
Yeah.
That's how I view whatever I choose to do. I don't care what it is. And that's the thing that has me to keep going. And to even start, not even just to keep going, to start something, period. Yeah. And you have to, in my view, have something at stake. If you don't have something at stake, then you can be overtaken by fear. To me, it's deeper than just the fear. What's causing you to not move forward? What's causing you to pause? What's causing you to stop? What's causing you to quit? Turn around, go back. And you have to have like something at stake.
So let me dig in on that though, because when I agree that you want to go deeper than fear. However, I think that fear is a great pointer for us as well. Like what you said is very true. When you have something at stake, it really helps you to keep going. However, I think Wind was he was given a very, very good pointer about what it is that people are afraid of. And it's that they're afraid of looking bad. That's really what it comes down to. And by looking bad, the reason that I have a fear of that is because really deep down inside, I just don't feel like I'm good enough. There's no way. There's nothing to there's nothing to resonate. If I felt like I was good enough, I would try anything because I'd be like, hey, like, dude, the sky's the limit. And I think that by ignoring that fear of looking bad because you failed, I think that is something that only a precious few of us can actually just overcome without actually just facing it and doing some work around that to say, what is it that has me what is it that has me feeling like I am not good enough to whatever it is, start that business, write that book, record that CD, start your own podcast, go tell that person you love them, whatever it is. There's always something that holds us back. And I think that it's always like sometimes we have to be pushed and other times we have to be pulled. And I think what you're saying, Earth, is that something's pulling you because you have something at stake. And unfortunately, our society has pushed us to a point of where some of us have to be pushed. So I would just add, I like to add that because I think that, Wynn was going in that direction. And I think that both of you have a great points of sometimes we need that pull and then sometimes there's that push. And unfortunately, we have to figure out, why do we need that push instead of why can't we just get that pull and it be enough?
I would also like to add that at all times we have something at stake, or the question is whether or not we recognize that and actually acknowledge that. Because our life is always on the line, always. We have to, do whatever it takes to succeed and get the outcomes that we want. And that determines the quality of our lives. So our lives are always at stake.
I think yes, Danielle. Yes, Danielle. I did say that CD. She said the comment is not that CD.
Not a CD.
Hey, listen,
What?
wax is coming back, Danielle. So listen, like wax is coming back. So CDs will be back. So you better keep those CDs.
So in the spirit of a remedy, I think about as an individual addressing my fears as they arise, meaning going back to Waters or Wynn's point, the fear of what individually. There's a fear of this and a fear of that in every situation. It's unique, but then categorically, what I'm really thinking about is categorically, what meaning do I ascribe to fear? Why is it that I have a default negative association, a default negative context with regards to the word in the world, and therefore the world of fear? Similarly, it's the same question that we asked ourselves a few weeks ago when we talked about failure. Why is it that we have a default negative context and therefore world associated with failure in ourselves inside of it? What if I'll use Earth's words? What if we Jedi mind tricked ourselves, or just reframed how fear occurs for us, such that we can feel the fear, acknowledge it. How you doing, fear? And I'm gonna take this action anyway. The fear is just telling me that I'm afraid of something in particular. I can do the work on the why, but ultimately, the clock is ticking, and I got a task to execute. I'm either going to do it or I'm not, whether I'm scared or not. Like, the task don't care. The task itself doesn't care. The task along a critical path doesn't care if you're scared. So why give fear? Why let fear be the brakes that stops us, or a barrier to action? It's all based on how it occurs, how fear occurs, our relationship with fear itself, I think, as I'm thinking about this. What y'all think about that?
Okay, what I think, hold on, Earth, hold on. What I think is that fire jumped the gun. You stole my thunder. So let me give you a soft little, white glove backhand right quick. By saying that, look, yes, add on to what fire is saying. And really, since we're running short on time, what I want everyone to kind of do, which is what fire is doing, is what pointers can we give the audience to be intentional about making more decisions based upon the context of the definition that we have today. Okay, go ahead, Earth.
So really quick, so I just want to add, some science to what we're dealing with, right? Just really quick. There's something in the scientific community called being wired to win. And being wired to win is someone who is predisposed to winning. They will not quit regardless of what happens. That's why you'll find soldiers on the battlefield. You'll find one soldier, boom, gets his leg blown off, and he's down for the count. You'll find another soldier gets both legs blown off and one arm, and he's still pushing forward. He's grabbing a gun and he's still fighting. That it's a real thing. Some people are wired to win. Some people are not. Just because you're not wired to win, it doesn't mean you can't develop habits which allow you to make decisions and actually win in whatever you're doing. But we have to get, there's some people, some of us, we're just wired to win. And one way you can tell if you're wired to win is if, those who play sports, for example, if you've ever injured yourself and you pop back up immediately, regardless of what happened, you're trying to get up to continue, not get up and go to the sideline and go out the game. You're getting up to continue pursuing whatever you're up to with basketball, football, whatever, doesn't matter what it is. Those are people who are wired to win. You see people like that in the Olympics all the time. You see that constantly in track and field. It's very obvious, in football is obvious. Like, you see that. And so I think that's the thing that will, in some ways, distinguish people that we don't take into account. And I don't think we take into account because we don't get how we are genetically, how some of us are predisposed to winning, predisposed to pursuing whatever goal it is, and it has nothing to do with your upbringing at all. It has nothing to do with your self-esteem. It has nothing to do with any of that. You're literally wired genetically to be that. And so that's what I wanted to add to that.
Well, there you have it. So if you're not wired to win, you're wired to lose. Words of wisdom from the earth.
Sucks to be you.
Hey, you were just born that way. We can't help you.
However, you could Jedi mind fool yourself into being a winner, right? Right, Ernie?
Yeah. It takes work. It's gonna take something. It really, you have to train yourself to respond in that way. And others of us, we don't.
Real question on that note before we go to water and wind, because I see what you're saying. I encounter me myself. I resonate and identify as a winner. Can't explain it. Always been there since as young as I can remember. My teachers saw it. My coaches saw it. My family and friends, they all saw it. You different. Two things. One, how is it possible for brothers and sisters of the same lineage to be born in the same house? As you said, there's no sociological impact, but one is freaking valedictorian, freaking Rhodes Scholar, got promise on cures for cancer, and the other one is a certified, addict and a full-blown victim, and assumes no responsibility for one. But they're the same parents, bro. So help me wrap my mind around instances where you have the same lineage, DNA, and one person is a certified loser for life, and the other person just figures out how to win.
Yeah, it's the 50-50 game. You get 50% of your genes from your mother, 50% from the father. You don't know what 50 you're gonna get. You don't know what 50 the children are gonna get. You have no clue at all. And that's the determining factor. That's a fact. Yeah. It's a 50-50 game. That's all.
Well, the gene pool is not, it's going to be random, buddy. So there it is. Win was patient too, man. Win was real. Look at him. He was real patient not to interrupt. He was like, man, guys, I got something on the tip of my tongue. So go ahead, Win.
I mean, at the end of the day, even winners have to put in the work, right? You might have a disposition that permits you to be an outlier, but you still have to put in the work to get to the goals and objectives that you desire. And for those of us that don't have that necessary genetic predisposition, we have to put in more effort, more hours. And it's really as simple as that. At the end of the day, we all have to develop a muscle called "so what."
Come on, Win.
So no matter how steep the mountain looks, if your intent is to go over that mountain, to get around that mountain, to get on the other side, you have to say, so what? No matter what the obstacles are, this is what I want, this is what I'm going to do. And do what's necessary, utilize your resources, because somebody did it. So why can't you?
All right. All right. Drop the mic on that. So I love it. And, listen, Earth is all about, the will to win. And he's talking to the winners out there, like the people who are genetically predisposed to greatness. Wind and myself, we got your back out there. For everybody else, all the regular people out there, Wind and water, we're going to speak to you. And I just want to say, um, the pointers that I can give you to be intentional about making more decisions, right? To cut off other possibilities is to, number one, begin with the end in mind. Because without the target or without knowing really why you're doing it, it's going to be really, really hard for you to make the quote right decision for that particular situation. Once you actually know how you want it to end, then you look at the options, because I think that part of the conversation may have alluded to, listen, you just, hey, look, you make a decision, there are no options. Well, at first, me in particular, I always like to evaluate the options just to see, okay, like, hey, I could do A, B, or C. But what I don't do is I don't have A, B, C through Z, because too many options is just, that's just too much for me, at least. And I think anyone will be confused. I think in the sales and marketing world, we always say that, a buyer with too many options is a confused buyer that will never buy. So, with too many options, you will never make a decision. But with one option, you may not evaluate the situation or assess the situation correctly. Then from there, to me, I always run a worst case scenario and just say, listen, what is the worst that could happen if I make this decision? Right? If I go all in, what is the worst that can happen? And can I live with that worst case scenario? And yes, of course, I also do the best case scenario, because that's what's going to motivate me, as Earth was talking about. That's going to give me something that pulls me, right? That'll give me something that I'm very, very intentionally going towards. And then, simple from that, eliminate the other options until you're down to one. And then you just cut off all other possibility. And to me, that would be how I would leave it, to say that for the uninitiated, right? For those of us born from the inferior gene pool, that earth and fire, fire already say, he's like, yo, I'm from that pool. Like, look, fire's already, he's already donned himself. Fire has donned himself as he is from that pool. But for us who are not from that pool, we have to crawl from the bottom, right? We have to take that road that's not well traveled, where it looks really squiggly, but we're still going to get there. And I think that as long as you keep in mind that it's all about, at the end of the day, cutting off those other possibilities and saying, hey, look, there is no plan B. Gentlemen, in closing, that was my closing right there. So you gentlemen go ahead and we'll send it to Earth, Fire, and then Wynn's going to take us out, because Wynn's got it next week, baby.
Woo! So, I'll close with this. A beautiful thing about what Water said is actually what I was going to say in my closing. So that's beautiful. Well, part of it. It's a good segue, put it like that. All is not lost. It's just not. Because in order for you to do something new, we have to understand that our DNA literally changes. Not figuratively, it literally does, in order for us to do something. As we continue to move forward in life, as we continue to learn and to grow and to create, new ways of life for ourselves, our DNA actually changes, it alters. And so that DNA, when you are actually conceiving, you literally, there's a potential, because it's 50-50 game, you could potentially pass that down to your children. So all is not lost. You can actually have children who are wired to win, even though you weren't wired to win. See, it's easy. So all is not lost.
Oh man,
that's real. Thank you, Doctor. That's real. That's real.
Fire, you don't have to worry about that. That's for the rest of us.
Right. So do everything. I saw someone here put down Coach Water. Do everything that Coach Water said, and then you begin to create a whole nother gene pool, possibly that 50-50 game. Pass it down to your children, and boom, there you have it. Simple. What you got, Fire?
I got a couple notes. I got to take some notes while you two guys were going. So to bring it home, what we're talking about in psychology and business and consumer behavior is called convergent and divergent thinking. So convergent is about choices. Divergent is about the only option. And the only option becomes the thing that we decide in order to get what we want. So it's not, there's a lot of information out there on it. If you're interested in doing more research, look up convergent versus divergent thinking. You'll find a whole world of literature and scholarly articles on the topic. Number 2, principle, nugget. Action dissipates fear. If you pay attention, there's a lot of fear around something that you haven't done before because you bring all this worry to the table, things that you haven't experienced before. Sometimes you bring some pain to the table based on what you experienced in the past. Nonetheless, neither are happening right now in this moment. But when you start to do it, remember when your parents or your mom or your dad first took the training wheels off your bike, what you thought to yourself, oh snap, it's about to get real. And then you started to pedal. Now, after a couple of rotations, you say, oh, I didn't fall. I'm still on the bike. All of a sudden, it's 5 minutes later, 5 hours later, you can't get off the bike. Mama can't get you in the house. The street lights then came on because you got the hang of it. Action dissipates fear. Trust me. Lean in and watch the fear dissipate when you actually start doing the thing that you were afraid of. Will Smith actually makes it a point in his life to attack his fears. He actually does it like for sport, literally. He attacks his fears. You can read all about that too. There's a song I want y'all to listen to. The artist is Smokey Norfolk. He's a gospel artist. He has a song called Run Till I Finish. This topic made me present to the words. He said, I have determined that I am committed, that I'll run no matter the cost. I will run till I finish. Woo, man. Listen, when you make a decision, you run your race until you're finished. That's Smokey Norfolk, Run Till I Finish. Listen to that thing. It will bring tears to your eyes. I cried on that song many times. Last but not least, a couple of book recommendations. These books the brothers have read, the elements have read, but there's a book called Divine, the Divine Matrix. Very influential book in my life in terms of shifting my thinking and my being from the cellular level. Divine Matrix. Is that Greg Braden, guys? Greg Braden. I think he is. Divine.
Yes,
that's true.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
The second book is Psycho Cybernetics. Remember that one, Water?
Yes.
I can't remember who wrote that one. That's an oldie, but it's a real goodie because you talk about the science of creating this automatic success mechanism, ASM as they call it in the book. Psycho Cybernetics. Get both of those. Listen to Run Till I Finish. And tell your friends and to tell a friend to smash, like, subscribe, comment, follow, engage with the elements, man. We love y'all. That's all I got. Win.
So going back to what Irv said earlier, this is a journey of mastery. Nobody is born a master. Jesus wasn't even born a master. In literature and science, they say it takes 10,000 hours to get to a certain level of mastery. So just continue the journey. Just be committed, like Fire said, and you'll get to whatever destiny you want. It takes a firm commitment, that decision. Develop that so what muscle. Despite the fear, so what? Despite how it looks, so what? Despite how high it is, how far it is, so what? And I'll just leave it like that. And so for next week, I absolutely have no idea what I'm going to talk about. However, I will make this promise to you. It's the beginning of the new year, 2022. And whatever I talk about is going to be right on time. And it's going to be powerful. So join us next week.
Whoa. Before we go, Fire, we pull up the Facebook group so we can, I want to do a little something, right? I actually, Water, I take it upon myself. I'm going to get Fire to actually plug the Facebook group right now. Whoever is not joined the Facebook group, I want you to go join it. Tomorrow morning, I'm actually going to post a video to keep this actual conversation going about the power of making decisions, especially since what Wynn just said. It's a new year coming up. We're not going to talk about resolutions. We're going to talk about decisions. So tomorrow, I will post a video tomorrow early to get the Facebook group kicking, because it's been a little dead in there. We've got like 150 people in there. Fire. How do people join the Facebook group?
You
What's the
probably
name?
can't see this. You probably can't see this because
we can't see
I'm
that.
not logged in, so I can't pull it up and share. However, if you're on Facebook, just go to if you're on Facebook at all, not in the group, or if you're on YouTube, if you prefer to live stream via YouTube, that's fine. But if you want to engage in dialogue where we can go back and forth and really tap in, we're at 4 Elements United on Facebook.
Not the page, the group. The group.
Oh.
Group.
Thank you.
Group. Yes. We're going to have a conversation in the group. Yes.
Well, what they want to do is actually like the homepage.
Correct.
Once you like it, it'll allow us to get you into the private.
Tell them the group. They can search the group and just join it, and they can request to join it.
Yeah.
All right. Look up the 4 Elements group. Like
group chat. It says group chat in parentheses.
4 Elements group chat is what we want. All right. Go join that. If you're already in there, you know what it is. You'll see me tomorrow. We're going to actually get that group going because we want to keep this conversation going. Once a week, I feel like is not enough. I feel like if you're actually going to really make change in your life, if you're going to live the life that you want to live in 2022, you're going to need it more than once a week. So come to the group. We're going to have some conversations, and we're going to keep this conversation right here going tomorrow morning. It's your boy Water. I'm out. Elements.
Peace.
Peace, everybody.